The vacation would be over, no matter how much I wanted to continue. In her eyes, it's pathetic for me to make a big deal out of not completing my homework, and contemplated whether I should still work on it or not. On top of that, I'm saying that I might as well die if my vacation is going to be over. Plus, I think that you're undermining yourself a little bit right over here. You're saying that you've done like no homework, when in actuality, I feel like you've done plenty of that homework throughout this entire thing and you just don't realize it. And like, I'm not saying that you should do nothing in this, like in this very day. I think that you should still continue at least with another page, but once you turn it all over to the teacher, you might end up being surprised. You just don't see it. If I was in her situation, I'd be laughing hysterically. Keiichi told me to seek A1's help in order to finish my homework. And I'm not taking that offer, not only because I don't want to cause them trouble, but also because I don't want the teacher to know that I got help from them. That's such a bullshit thing to think about. If I was going to have regrets, I should have worked on it from the beginning. If I had no intention of working on it, I should have just relaxed without stressing so much. Okay, you know what? Maybe we are beyond the homework comparison right over here. This is more than just homework, you know. If I didn't care what other people thought, I should have asked for their help in the first place. Those are the three options I talked about with Hanyu yesterday. I didn't choose any of them. I've been living for over 100 years, but I still can't decide. My 100 years were wasted.
Satoko, 僕は今日風邪をひいてしまったのでお休みしますです。そうなんですの？体温計でお熱を測ります？今日はゆっくりさせてくださいです。知恵には僕は風邪で休むと伝えてほしいのですよ。リカ、本当に風邪なんですの？なんだか命を狙われてるような話をしているって圭一さんが言ってて、私本当に心配してますのよ。ありがとうです。もう行かないと遅刻しますですよ。
Satoko looked at the clock, then looked back at me again.
私は今すごく幸せですのよ。みんなと楽しく過ごせて、またリカと一緒に暮らせるようになってとても嬉しいんですの。だからリカがいなくなったら私がどれだけ悲しい世界に生き続けなくちゃならないかよく考えてほしいでございますのよ。僕のいない世界。ええ、リカのいない世界なんてとても辛くて悲しい世界ですわ。
I never thought about that. I thought that the world ended when I died. I never thought about the world after my death. That was never my concern. Well, then maybe you should start thinking about that. Because true enough, you never lived... You never knew what happened past your death. And, well, this is one of them. Your friends would end up really sad about your death for the rest of their lives. And you don't want that. You don't want them to feel sad about your death. So you're just gonna give up like that?
I
mean, for Pete's sake. We solved like a huge ordeal for Satoko. And 2 days after that, like, if you're not gonna do anything, Rika, she's gonna end up in a new kind of world of pain because of this.
リカ一人の不幸じゃない。リカに悲しいことがあれば、私もそしてみんなも不幸になることを決して忘れないでくださいますですのよ。里子。リカ、今日はそっとしておきますけど、悩みがあるなら絶対に相談するんですのよ。仲間が悩んでいるのに自分を頼ってくれないこともまた悲しいんですから。
Satoko seemed like she wanted to say more, but she looked at the floor instead. I know what she's trying to say. I realize how selfishly I've been living. It was wrong for me to look at this world as a stage play. But it's too late. It's too late now. Satoko left the house in a hurry. Hanyu and I were left alone inside the house.
僕もお邪魔でしょうから、リカが呼ぶまで消えていますのです。
Yeah, well, take your time.
気が利くのね。100年生きても、リカはリカです。100歳の仙人にはなれないのです。リカには、年相応に悩んで考える時間があってもいいと思います。僕がリカに背伸びを敷いたこともあるかもしれませんのです。
Then let us continue past June 1983 and let Rika finally think like a young girl. Like a free young girl instead of like a grown-up.
羽生は悪くないわ。私が勝手に天狗になってただけよ。僕とおしゃべりしたいときは呼んでくださいです。もう泣きつかないの？私がこの世界で終わりにするのを撤回してほしいって。リカは頑固な人ですから、言えば言うほど逆効果になりますのです。さすが、付き合いが長いだけのことはあるわね。もうリカも悟っているようですから言います。今日です。悔いのない一日を。リカが何をしてもしなくても、朝が来て夏休みが終わるように、この世界も終わります。でも、リカが望めば次の朝も訪れる。そして、それはまたしても今年の6月かもしれないけれど、朝は朝。もっと小さい頃、毎日が退屈で、毎朝、起きても同じ日が繰り返されてるんじゃないかって思ったことがある。それが本当になるだけのことだしね。今日を有意義に生きてくださいとだけ言いますのです。これ以上は僕は何も言いませんのです。多分今日だろうと思っていたけど、あんたにはっきりと言われると答えるわね。やっぱり終わるのね。今回も。はい、今回も終わりますのです。いつもと同じように。
Hanyu disappeared and went completely quiet inside the house. How should I spend my day? How should I end this day? Should I work on my homework, knowing that I'm not going to make it on time? I only have half a day left. I have to do my best. I should think about what I can do. This world is supposed to be a happy place. People are enjoying their lives. I should have enjoyed my life more too. I don't mean that I should have lived my life in blind optimism. It means that I should have enjoyed my life by fully experiencing both happiness and sadness. If I did that, I wouldn't be as worried about what to do after my death. I should have simply lived with all my might. When the time comes, it will be over.
今日を生きる。
That's a very important phrase, but it sounds meaningless when I say it, because I can repeat this meaningless laugh as many times as I wish. Cheese! Huge block of cheese. You always have that, like, on your door, don't you? While Satoko was at school, I washed the dishes. Hanyu would usually stay with me when Satoko wasn't around. And she's not here right now. It's been a while since I was all by myself. I never thought anyone could feel so lonely while washing the dishes. I'm going to die today anyway. This world is ending today. Why should I wash these dishes? And that's because I'm thinking about Satoko, who will have to move on with her life after tomorrow. I will encounter a new Satoko in the next world, but I realized something after hearing what Satoko told me earlier. After I'm dead, I wonder how Satoko will move on with her life. The worlds that I have lived in the past all went on without me. True enough. If you died every single time, that means that there's plenty of worlds out there that had Satoko live the rest of her life sad. Or she died, but in those worlds where she ended up living for the rest of her life, she ended up sad because she couldn't spend that life with you. The same case for the rest of your friends. It makes you think that no matter what outcome, because of your death, your friends are always going to be sad. Or die. But in case of those worlds where they didn't die, they will end up sad no matter what. And this isn't just a matter of you finally changing your fate so you can live a happy life, but all of you to live a happy life. Together. Alive. I wonder if Satoko would be able to cook without me. I wonder if she can go shopping on her own. I wonder if she can wash her clothes by herself. I've been avoiding thinking about this, but Satoko and my other friends must have been overcome by sadness. It's too late for me to think about this, but I start feeling like I want to cry. I'm feeling like this because I don't want to leave this world. And this is the world that I've always wanted. It's my hope that I can continue to live in this world beyond June 1983. True enough. I mean, look at all the good things that happen in this world. Truly, like a miracle that you all have created. Like, I don't want you to go through loops, like, again. I know that another loop will happen, like, next time, no matter what, because, well, I'm going through the story. I know that there's going to be, like, another loop after this. Let's just hope that the next loop is going to be the last one. That is just going to be just as miraculous, if not even more miraculous, than what we have achieved in this world. After a long journey, I finally ended up in this world. But I was able to truly live in this ideal world for only one night. But that doesn't necessarily mean that I'm giving up on this world. It could very well be that we could finally manage to overcome whatever is going on in this and create like a good life for Rika, even from this. Can very well be possible. I'm not giving up. The night of Watanagashi. This world will be shattered again after I die tonight. We finally say Satoko, and all our friends assume that our happy life has returned. However, I'm going to die tonight. And they will mourn for me. We worked so hard to make a miracle happen, but they're going to lose their happy world in just one day. Am I going to start a new life in the next world, as if nothing happened? I lived 3 days in my new world, but 3 sad days were going to pass in this world. That's not good. I can't think straight anymore. I couldn't stop the tears from flowing from my eyes. I hugged Satoko's pillow and cried. I could smell her scent. After I die, Satoko will probably hug my pillow and cry just like this. Is everyone else going to cry for me too? I'm sure they will. And they will be sad. Not about my death. They will be sad, not because I'm dead, but because I never told them about what was trolling me so much. True enough, not only are they going to be sad about your death, but if you don't say anything, they're going to be sad about the fact that they couldn't just do anything to help you. They didn't even know why you died. You know, Rika, if you're gonna die and your friends are gonna end up sad, at least you should give them that. At least you should tell them why you're gonna die. At least, there won't be chances of them blaming each other, but instead blaming on the source of your death more. Hell, you could think of it in a way that they could avenge your death or something like that. Anything better than not telling them. I wonder if they're going to feel regret. Will they wonder what they could have done to open up my heart? What they could have done to help me in my time of trouble? Will they wonder what they could have done to save me? I felt miserable and frustrated. I held Satoko's pillow and continued to cry. And the next moment, I heard the phone ringing. I tried to ignore it, but it wouldn't stop ringing. I picked up the phone, hoping that my friends would call to check on me. However, I heard a weird guy's voice coming from the receiver.
どうも、お世話になっておりますね。おこのぎ造園と申しますが、古出さんのお宅でいらっしゃいますか?
It's the Okonogi Gardeners.
Okonogi?
It was Okonogi from the Mountain Dogs. It was the first time I received a phone call from him.
緊急のご連絡がしたくってお電話させてもらいました。学校にお電話したら、今日は休んだと言われましたもので。具合は大丈夫ですかいね?
I'm not alright. This is the day I die. I knew he had no idea, but I still couldn't help but feel upset.
風邪なのです。ちょっと今日はゆっくりしていますです。
そうですか。偶然とはいえ、それは好都合だったですね。
え?
I had no idea what made him say that. He was glad I was sick. Oh, I bet. A young girl all by herself in the house, nobody to protect her. Very unfortunate for you guys, huh?
どうして僕が風邪をひくと、おこのぎの好都合になるのですか?
いえ、実はあなたの命が狙われている可能性があるっちゅう連絡が入ってきたんです。
それはどういうことなのですか?
この度の富武氏たちの事件なんですが、東京の調査の結果、入江所長が黒幕である可能性が高いっちゅう連絡が入ってきました。
Bullshit.
入江が黒幕?
This is the first time I've heard something like this. This isn't something that happens at random. It's the very first time. That means it's not just a coincidence. I'm hearing this now because of something that I did differently in this world. I've done many things differently in this world too. I've done many things differently in this world though. I can't tell which decision led me to this result. However, maybe this is something that could change my life drastically. Okonogi continued to explain to me. There had been budget cuts to their research, and they were scheduled to be shut down within a few years. Irie was strongly against that, because he was embezzling their research money by requesting bigger and bigger budgets. Because they were going to cancel their research, he tried to sell the merged data and make a lot of money off of it.
それは本当なのですか?
信じたくないでしょうが、事実ですね。まあ、入江所長はどこか後ろめたそうなところがありましたんよ。すったらんな感じでした。
I think I can say with certainty that Irie is not that type of person. I've been around him for years, and as far as I know, he's not a bad guy. He doesn't even have the guts to be one. He pretends to be cold-hearted for the sake of his research, but he can't shake his regrets. He's simply a nice person. It's hard to believe that he was embezzling money from Tokyo. I'm starting to be suspicious of Takano, but she's actually a nice person too. She seemed mean at times, but she could also act as innocent as a child. However, I'm starting to suspect her because Oishi told me that the body they found in Gifu might not be Takano's body. Okonogi works for Takano. That means I can't trust Okonogi. In other words, I can trust Irie, because Okonogi is clearly just trying to set him up. On the other hand, if Takano isn't guilty, I could be making a huge mistake. Yet, it always seemed to me as though Tomitake and Irie were good friends. If Tokyo had suspected that Irie was embezzling money from them, Tomitake would have treated him far more coldly. Anyway, at the very least, Tomitake of Tokyo didn't have such a bad impression of Irie. The Irie of the Irie Institute and Tomitake of Tokyo were good friends. Tomitake of Tokyo and Takano of Tokyo were good friends. Takano of Tokyo and Okonogi of Tokyo were superiors and subordinate. But Okonogi of Tokyo says that Tokyo is suspicious of Irie. This doesn't make sense. Everyone seems to be good friends at first glance, but the links don't connect from start to finish. Irie thinks he has a positive relationship with Tokyo, but Tokyo is suspicious of Irie? That's just odd. The chain should be connected, but one of the links is twisted out of order. It's breaking the loop.
すでに東京が内定に着手してますんで、また、入江はあなたを何らかの交渉の最後の切り札に使おうとしている可能性があるらしく、あなたに対する警護体制を本日よりさらに強化せよとの命令が来ました。それでご自宅にいられるんは都合がいいと言ったんですんで、すでに古出神社の周辺は山犬が3交代、20人体制で警護に入らせていただきました。もちろんご安心ください。それっちゃわからないように気を利かせてますんで。
すごい警護体制なのです。その警護はいつまで続くのですか？
東京から解除の命令が来るまでずーっとですんで、今回の一件が解決するまでです。
That should have been good news for me, since today was the day I was supposed to die. This is exactly the kind of security I wanted. That's why I let Takano into the ritual storehouse. However, I have a bad feeling about this. Tokyo should be my ally, but that arrangement is just like Irie's relationship with Tokyo. Everything seems in order from my end, but when you trace it the other way, it feels like something's off at some point. I have this uncomfortable feeling because I have a few uncertainties about Tokyo. Tokyo and Irie have strong ties. But they're suspicious of him? Is Irie actually a bad guy? Is Takano still alive, and is she the one who killed Tomitake? Those questions and more made me uncertain about accepting help from Tokyo. I thought Tokyo, as a single organization, would move with a single intention. But in reality, they have multiple different intentions. In other words, there must be multiple... what's the word? I see it in the political section of newspapers all the time. Ah, right. Factions. Are there two factions in Tokyo? One that wants to remain friendly with Irie and one that looks down on him? Yup. That would explain the irregularities I'm sensing. Maybe I've been talking to Oishi too much? If he hadn't told me that he was suspicious of Takano, would I have believed Tokonogi without a doubt? More than likely. Well, maybe not. Even without Oishi's theory, Okonogi still sounded very suspicious. I mean, that too, yeah. Irie was loyal to his research on Hinamizawa syndrome. Tokyo understood this, so his relationship with Tomitake wasn't particularly strained. Plus, Irie isn't the type of person who would commit embezzlement. He's a law-abiding citizen with a good moral character. Of course, he has some ambition as a researcher. But that only goes as far as common sense expects any researcher too. It's something like the criminal aspirations that would lead to major embezzlement. A great number of the mountain dogs were going to be guarding me. Unless, again, that would be quite a twist, although I doubt that would be that will be where it goes. Again, the twist that maybe Irie is its own villain. Imagine those theories that I had before that maybe Irie is the one who took Satoshi and tried to cure him for Satoshi and Satoko's sake. Imagine if he had to become the bad guy in order to do so. To squeeze like money out of Tokyo and like try to fool them until he finally manages to heal Satoshi, even though you would have to do some very, very drastic actions. Imagine that. Although at that point that would mean that he is still the good guy. It's just a means to an end. This is what I've been waiting in my previous lives. But for some reason, I couldn't be happy about it. I couldn't help but feel depressed. I'm just, like at this point, I'm just very, very curious what Takano and like Tokyo's views of Rika are. Why are they putting such tight security on her like right now? How does Takano view Rika? Is it the way that I theorized, or if this house is like an empty bird cage, then I'd be the fox with feathers stuck to its face. I don't know if I can really trust the people who are protecting me. I try to recall more about Okonogi. The mountain dogs have been protecting me for years. Okonogi proved his skills in many of my other lives. To them, I'm something of a special existence. Is that so? If something happens to me, it will be a disaster. Okay, so maybe I'm right. Maybe Rika is seen as somewhat of a special person, even before this. The Institute is there to keep Hinamizawa's syndrome under control. And the mountain dogs are there to protect me from evildoers. So why would they try to betray? Well, I mean, there's also like the Hinamizawa syndrome research, not necessarily like Takano's plan. Rika is a volunteer with the Hinamizawa syndrome in her as well, so it makes sense that they would try their best to protect their patients in order to find a cure. So there's also that angle. Let's not forget about that. I guess for that matter, also Satoko of all things, yeah. Which, you know, it's kind of funny that they didn't help whatsoever. Give a little extra push in a child call center arc. They didn't help him in any way whatsoever, even though technically Satoko is one of their precious patients. So in which case maybe there definitely is more to Rika to them besides just a patient for them to use for the Hinamizawa syndrome cure, which would be in accordance with my theories. I just know one thing for sure. I can't feel comfortable with the protection of the mountain dogs alone. I want someone other than Tokyo protecting me. Then call Keiichi and let him come. But I bet such a person wouldn't believe me. Wait, what about Oishi? I've been keeping in touch with Oishi since the other day. He still thinks that the mysterious deaths in Hinamizawa are all plotted by the village authorities. If he believes that, then he might believe that my life is in danger. For him, I am a special person with lots of useful information. The mountain dogs hate the police though. When I asked them to assassinate Satoko's uncle, they refused because he was being watched by the police. They would feel relieved if the police were guarding me along with the mountain dogs. In that way, the dogs wouldn't be able to harm me, even if they were working for an evil faction of Tokyo. Besides that, if my suspicions toward them turned out to be baseless, more protection couldn't hurt. I'm sure that double security would keep me safe.
わかりましたです。今日はおとなしくしていますです。
I mean, not to mention that they probably have the means of tapping into other people's conversations, so they would hear your conversation with Oishi.
ええ、そうなさってくださるとうちらも助かりますんで。町へ繰り出して変なチンピラに喧嘩でも売られるとうちらも苦労しますん。
根に持たれているのです。
Me.
では、風、お大事になさってください。
風邪の診察に診療所に行ってはいけませんですか？
万が一ということがありますね。入江診療所には当分近寄らないでください。妙な注射でも打たれやすと大変ですかいね。
入江はそんなことしないです。
しないとうちらも思いたいですがね。その疑いが解けるまでちょいとしばらく慎重にしてほしいっちゅうこってん、安城ご理解をいただきたいんですわ。
知ったらんしゃもないのです。
Dude. Okay. Random, like, transition from telephone voice and clear voice.
おこのぎもいつの間にかすっかり地元言葉になりましたです。
最初は普通の東京なまりだったです。直せと言われれば直せるつもりですがね。地域に溶け込むのが仕事ですから。
Although I won't lie when I say that for a second I was thinking, does this mean that Okonogi is behind Rika? That surely would be something. I finished speaking with him. As soon as I hung up the phone, I opened my phone book and looked for the number to the Okinomiya Police Department. Alright, it was nearly noon. It felt like the pages of the phone book were sticking to my skin. I must have been in a hurry. I really don't want to die. I want to stay in this world. I don't want to live this perfect world. I'm trying to do something because I don't want to die. I'm trying to live with all my might. I'm trying to enjoy my life. For the first time, I was spending my last day positively, without drinking wine until I was drunk.
もしもし、大石です。
You know, that is also like a detail that I want to talk about right over here. Rika, maybe it's also because you were drunk, like the last day that you may not remember things. Although I don't know if drunkenness and like, God, what would be the word? Hangover with the transfer from one world to another. I don't know about that one.
お待たせしてすみませんでしたね。ちょいと今から岐阜に行ってこようとしてたところでした。どうもあちらさん話が通らないんで、直に襟首を掴んでゆすってやろうと思いましてね。
岐阜、高野の死体のことですか？
ねえ、周りは勝手に納得して高野の死体に間違いないって繰り返すんですが、それで直接行って見てこようと思います。死体が高野でないと分かれば話は一気に急展開しますからね。高野を重要参考人として手配できます。幸い向こうの柔道部とは交流がありますので、おちょいとみっちり話し込んできますよ。
It looked like Oishi was proactively moving forward with the investigation. If the body is really is Takano, that would be sad for her, but it will give me a reason to trust the mountain dogs. If that's not Takano, then it will tell me that she's part of this whole incident. No matter what the result is, it will give me some kind of hint, but only if I'm still alive. But really, it's unfortunate. Oishi is leaving for Gifu. He can't be around to protect me.
大石、実は変な声の電話があったのです。知らない人でしたが、村人だと名乗りましたです。
匿名の電話ですか。続けてください。その電話は何と？
僕を殺そうとしている人たちがいると、早ければ今日にも決行すると言ってますです。
それは本当ですか。なるほど。それはありえない話じゃないな。わかりました。私はもう出発しなければなりませんので行けませんが、警官を何人か行かせます。駐在にも連絡して、あなたの近辺を警戒するように伝えましょう。 今日はご自宅ですよね。風邪か何かですか？家にいて戸締まりをしっかりしてください。すぐに警官を行かせます。
おいさん、どうしたんすか？先方との約束の時間ギリギリですよ。
Is Oishi gonna send Kumagai to Rika's house?
今ね、フルでリカから電話がありました。匿名の電話があり、彼女の命を誰かが狙っているらしいと警告してきたらしいって言うんです。
フルでリカをですか？どうして？村のマスコットじゃなかったんですか？
連続開始事件絡みで私と接触してたことに対する警告じゃないかと見てます。本当に殺すかどうかは疑わしいが、彼女も年頃の子供です。命を狙われていると聞かされたら穏やかにはいられないでしょう。それにここで信頼を損なると以後の関係にも支障をきたしますからね。2、3人でいいです。大至急行かせてください。あと駐在さんにも連絡して、とりあえず彼女を安心させてあげてください。
了解っす。
Rika fluid might have some kind of hand regarding the mysterious deaths in Hinamizawa. Oishi couldn't let her die.
私たちも岐阜の分からず宿も締め落としたら、すぐに南沢へ行きましょう。ちょいとハードな出張スケジュールになりましたよ。
こんなの楽勝っす。
こちらひばり。駐在警官が境内に入りました。R 宅へ向かっています。
Uh-oh.
了解。引き続き監視されたし。
R と接触。警官を中に入れました。沖宮署に R から連絡があったようです。自身の身辺警護を依頼したと思われます。
Okay, so I was right.
うちらのことは喋ったんかいね。
命を狙われているとの匿名電話があったと言っています。作り話でしょう。また、それとは別に沖宮署から私服警官が数人派遣されるようです。
何年？山犬だけじゃ信用できんって国会ね。
厄介ですね。監視体制にも支障が出ます。
まさか気づいたんじゃねえんかね。そんなわけはないとは思うが、全般に職質に注意しろと伝達。疑われたら意味ないんね。暗情警戒しろっちゅう伝えてえな。
了解。本部より全般、古出神社周辺に警察介入の動きあり、職質には特に注意されたし、今夜の決行ですが、様子を見た方がよろしいのでは。
連絡はするが、三差はやるっちゅう言うだろうな。明朝に R の死亡が発覚して話が進むよう、もうお膳立てが済んどるって話だ。警官に不審と思われとない。もし疑われたら、おとなしを引くこっちゃん。
Well, I guess that basically confirms that Rika's death is a part of their plan. Jesus Christ. The question still remains, why? Oishi had called the officers pretty quickly. The officer who was in the area arrived with 10 minutes after I spoke with him. He asked me what kind of phone call I received today. I decided to make up a whole story. It'll all be over if they check my call history. But I'm sure Oishi won't bother doing anything like that. He thinks I'm worth protecting, because I have information about the instance in Hinamizawa. The policeman is one of the villagers, so I know him very well. More officers are coming here from the Okonomiya department. The officers told me to relax, because he'd stay with me until then. Oishi must have thought I was frightened half to death after getting a threatening phone call. After about 30 minutes, 4 officers in plain clothes arrived at the shrine. The local officer returned to his police box.
状況は聞いています。神社周辺に我々が立ちますので、何かあったらすぐに呼んでください。あと、夕方になったら大石刑事がこっちに来ると言っていました。
I was relieved to learn that Oishi would be coming here.
どうかよろしくお願いしますです。
必ず一人がここの下にいますので。すみませんが、そのものにお手洗いだけは貸してもらってもよろしいですか？あと、 緊急時用にそのものに合鍵を預からせることはできますか？
どうぞです。おトイレも貸しますです。
Although I won't lie when I say that it could be possible that one of the police officers is a mountain dog in disguise, so that could be pretty bad. My house is on the second floor of a storage building. The first floor contains emergency supplies for the village. I'm happy to know that at least one police officer will be there for me. The officers confirm their positions on the map of the shrine. One will be in the storage building, and 2 more will walk around the shrine probably. Also, 1 more officer will be standing in front of the stairs that lead to the shrine. In this world, Oishi is certainly reliable. In my other lives, Oishi tended to look at me as his enemy. However, in this world, he thinks I'm on his side. I'm sure it's because we all became friendly with him around the time we saved Satoko. It was unfortunate at the time, but perhaps the return of Satoko's uncle was a necessary event. Imagine. Jesus Christ. Go figure, the most disgusting person in these worlds is the one that has brought us together, even stronger. If Okanogi was right about EDM, he wouldn't be able to come near me with 20 mountain dogs and 4 police officers protecting me. If Okanogi is the bad guy, they'd be discouraged from acting by the presence of the police. Not too different from giving garlic to a vampire. This is the best protection I've had in 100 years. Even so, am I still going to be killed tonight? I need to do whatever I can. Well, I'm sorry to say this, Rika. Unless Takano's evil plan, or whatever the Tokyo faction is thinking of, requires your death in a very timely, specific, time-sensitive thing, even if you are not killed tonight, you may be killed tomorrow, or the day after. So I don't think that this is gonna be good, but we shall see. I'm having some serious heartburns right over here, like in the neck region. I should struggle as hard as possible. I won't give up. I won't even think about my next life. This is what enjoying life is all about. This is what living seriously is all about.
Hanyu, いる？いますのですよ。どう思う？今回。確かに、僕もこういう展開はあまり見た記憶がありませんのです。今回はひょっとしてって思うことはやっぱり罪なのかしらね。僕は期待も失望もしませんです。ただあるがままに訪れる結果を眺めるのみです。
Hanyu is still acting like a bystander. I knew she was going to say something like that, but part of me was hoping she would say something more positive. Such a hopeless little girl. Upon hearing her say what she did, I felt a little disappointed. I wondered why Hanyu refused to be anything but an onlooker. I always thought it was normal for her to be that way, because she's a special existence. I also convinced myself I had to be an onlooker too, since I was a similar being. However, I can't just let go of everything and become a bystander. I can't become like her. I can't stop hoping for a better life for Rika Furude. That hope was betrayed so many times, and my heart was crushed countless more. That's why I stopped expecting anything to turn out the way I wanted. So, is Hanyu the same way? Yeah, I mean, it can very well be possible that all this selfish and hopeless attitude coming from Hanyu is definitely because she has been hurt way too much before. Still, it's just, I don't know.
羽生も傷つくのが嫌で期待することをやめた。
I've only lived for 100 years, but I know how frightening it is to have high expectations. Honey, you do realize that having no hope like, whatsoever is gonna hurt you ultimately and it will make Rika disappear. I mean, you basically have like a choice over here. Whether you have some hope before Rika disappears for good, or have no hope before she disappears for good, both of which, like, will hurt you nonetheless. Or you can have a little bit of hope, and maybe we're gonna be able to succeed. So at least, if you think negatively, at least hope before you are gonna get hurt. Do you understand? Am I making any sense right over here? I always thought that Hanyu was a special existence, but except for the fact that she's invisible, everything about us is the same. She has the same thoughts and feelings as everyone else, yet I still saw her as a special existence. I'm trying to think about Hanyu right over here. Like, it's not as if she was born like a ghostly person. She more than likely existed at some point, in the ancient Japan, like in the ancient history of Hinamizawa, before it was even called Hinamizawa. She might have been one of the first Furudes. In which case, something happened for her to become like this ghostly apparition, like after her death. She was once a young girl, for sure. Which also kind of makes me think, is Rika also gonna become like a ghostly apparition for like the next generations of Furudes? I mean, it's not like we're expecting like any new generation. It's not like Rika is at the age where she can conceive or anything like that, so Rika dies here, that will be the end of the Furudes, that's for sure. So it's not as if she's gonna... I mean, she could still become like a ghost to roam around with Hanyu for the rest of her life. I don't know. That's why I just assumed that her mind worked in a different way.
僕はリカに比べて長くを生きすぎましたのです。喜びより悲しみが後に残り、期待すれば裏切られる方が多いことを知りすぎてしまいました。
Jesus Christ。
だから、もう何が起こっても心を傷つけたいと思わないのです。
だから、今回の世界でも期待しないのね。私が、ひょっとするとこの運命から逃れられるかもしれないという期待を。羽生は、私がどうせまた、失意のうちに殺されると思ってる。
そんなことは思ってないのです。
Hanyu, let me tell you this. You're saying that there's more sad things in this world than happy things. Hell, I'm not. From what I'm understanding about you, Rika is everything to you. Rika is your world. Rika is the only thing that you care about that much. You don't particularly care about the other girls, about the other friends that Rika has. It's more so that Rika's true happiness is tied to the wonderful happy things that this world has, which would be Satoko, Rena, Mion, Shion, Keiichi. It's all tied together. Rika cannot be happy as your own singular world that exists just for you. She should exist by herself, tied to this kind of wonderful world that Rika is striving to claim, to finally achieve, to finally regain a normal life. Don't you think that it would be wonderful for us to go past June 1983 so that you can live together with Rika at her truest happiness, together with her friends? Because as far as these loops are happening, she's never going to be able to connect to her friends the way she wanted, and therefore You're not gonna be able to live with Rika, like, at her happiest, like, ever again. And therefore, you are not gonna be able to achieve true happiness through this. Like, I'm telling you, if we break through this, you all are gonna achieve true happiness, like after this. Don't rely on this endless party of yours to fulfill your empty soul. Your soul filled with hopelessness by being hurt so much. Hanyu looked uncomfortable. She had no doubts that I'd be killed again that night. And that's what it means to not have hope. But she just can't own up to it, because she doesn't want to hurt my feelings. Hell, like, you know what we've been through with Satoko and the Child Safety Center. Only by working together we managed to save Satoko. But you know, I get the feeling that as long as there is one other person that has no hope, Rika is gonna continue to die, and she's gonna continue to be sad. And you know who that person is? You. You may very well be the only person left that still has yet to reach some kind of hope in order for everything to turn out fine. Without you, Rika is gonna continue to die. Hell, I'm not even gonna be surprised if, through some twisted sense, it is because of your hopelessness that we are going through this road to begin with. That, and I don't want to believe that you're the main reason why Rika is going through these loops to begin with. That you are the one who is holding her like this. And that maybe there is some other explanation that I just cannot figure out. Will we ever figure out why Rika has gone through these roads? Like, what power is making her go through this? Maybe not. Maybe it's gonna be similar to Groundhog Day, where the reasoning for why the character went through those loops, it was never explained. The story was more about the character's progression through the story. How the character went through these loops, you know. So maybe similar to this. But there is hope that if we manage to go past this, we're gonna be able to achieve something.
羽生も聡子と同じなのね。何かの幸運か、誰かが助けて奇跡を起こしてくれるまで戦うことを恐れているだけよ。それを強さだと勘違いしている。つい最近までは私もそうだったけどね。
True. Anya looked down and bit her lip. She couldn't deny what I said.
あんたも何度も聞いてるはず。奇跡ってのはみんなで団結しないと起こせない。団結というのはつまり信じること。
True. Hanyu, you may very well be the missing piece left in order to do this. Come on. If we manage to defeat this Tokyo faction somehow and live past this, we may be able to achieve something beautiful. Don't you want that? I know that you be hurt and you feel hopeless. But there has to be something inside you that feels a little bit of hope for something beautiful here. You have to. There has to be something left in you.
みんなで信じないと奇跡は起こせないのよ。
What I just said sounded as though I was blaming her for the miracle not happening. Which can very well be possible, I don't know. Maybe I was too harsh to her. I stayed quiet, and Hani continued to look at the floor, shaking. And then she looked at me and spoke. I noticed sadness, but also a little bit of anger in her eyes.
触れることもできず、話すこともできない。見ているしかできない僕も、そのみんなに含まれるのですか？リカに、どんな顛末も見ていることしか許されなかった僕の気持ちがわかるというのですか？
There was a slight severity in the tail end of Hanyu's speech. Then this is your chance, then. If you believe, you could very well be involved in helping everybody over here. To feel like you've been involved in this. except for me. She can't communicate with anyone in this world. She hates to be reminded of that.
ごめん。やめましょう。この流れは喧嘩になるわね。自分が殺されるまでの貴重な時間をあんたと喧嘩して過ごしたいとは思わないわ。
僕もリカと喧嘩をしたくはないのです。
でもこれだけは言わせて。私とあなたは友人だと思ってる。だから友人の人生が乗るか反るかという時に期待しないとかあるがままを受け入れるとか言ってほしくなかった。
Christ. Like, okay, we're talking about this in a very special supernatural case in this story, but imagine if a friend actually told you this, like, in real life. Like, don't expect too much out of your life. It's all just bullshit. Like, there's such a pessimistic way of viewing things.
そのことは謝りますのです。でも、期待するかしないかは、僕の心の中で好きにさせてくださいなのです。
She can be very stubborn sometimes. Hanyo seems weak on the outside. She actually has a very strong moral code. One that she wouldn't bend for anything. She apologized to me, but she wasn't being honest. She still wasn't expecting anything good to come from this world. She still thinks that I'm going to die pitifully. And that's why she refuses to believe in miracles. I've been living with her long enough to read her mind. I feel bad for her in a sense. She's been living too long and lost all of her hope. Honey told me to call her if anything else had happened, and soon disappeared. I'm sure she's still around. She's probably still watching me, as if she's watching a TV show. The time of my death is slowly approaching. Will I be able to survive this time? It's been a long time since I've faced this fear without drinking wine. I was left with nothing else to do after washing the dishes and cleaning the room. The mountain dogs and police were protecting me. Just in case, I figured I should leave something behind for Satoko. Should I write down some recipes for her in the notebook? Will she be happy if I leave a will for her? I laughed at my own foolishness. No one will be happy to read a will. If I die, they'll be devastated. And they'll wonder why I didn't talk to them. That's exactly how I felt when Satoko didn't ask for any help when her uncle was abusing her. I mean, you know what? You could write, though. It would make them sad, but at least, like, you know, you could tell them, hey, like, this whole Hinamizawa syndrome and Mount Dogs and kind of thing, what you are thinking. That Takano baby, the one behind all this. That way, again, I don't want to think with a negative thought that, oh, this world, she's gonna die and we shall move on to the next world, which still could very well be possible. I mean, we have chapter 8 and all that, but it would be good for Keiichi and the rest to know about this, so that maybe we have some ammunition for later. I wonder, will I be killed before Satoko even comes home? My memories of these days are never very clear. The day I die is always vague in my recollections. It's fine if I'm murdered before Satoko gets home, but if I'm murdered after, then would I kill her along with me? I don't want that to happen. It's bad enough already that I end up killed. If Satoko's murdered along with me each time, that would be too much to bear. That would be too much to bear. Just how much have I ignored other people's sadness with that rash idea that the world ends when I die? Thinking about that made me feel truly ashamed of myself. I turned on the TV to try and reduce the silence, but it didn't help at all. Worse, not only did the TV not help with my fears, it felt like it symbolized Hanyu and my allies, made me feel even more unpleasant. It was past lunchtime, nearly 3 p.m. School should be out soon. I'm not there today, so they probably won't do a club activity. Satoko should be home shortly. Isn't I'm going to survive until she gets home after all. If she comes home and asks me what's troubling me, I might end up telling her the truth. If I talk to someone, that person will be demoned away by the mountain dogs. And that's why I've never spoken to anyone about it. I didn't want my friends to get into danger. But if Satoko was also murdered likewise in every world because she was involved with me, then we're doomed to share the same fate. It's better to know the truth than to be killed without knowing what's going on. Exactly. But I'm under very strict security right now. I might be able to survive in this world. If that's the case, I shouldn't talk to Satoko about it. I won't put my money on that. It won't be so easy to talk to my friends after all. Moments later, I heard a surprised yell of Satoko's coming from downstairs. She returned. It sounded like she was scared to see a stranger in our home. I have to tell her that the police were here. There will be tantamount to telling her that someone is out to kill me. I don't know how to explain it to her or how much I should tell her. However, my thoughts were soon interrupted by the noise of a crowd. Oh. It's Satoko and friends! Satoko hadn't come home alone.
ただいまでございますのよ。それよりリカ、下のおまわりさんは何なんですの？
私服警官が護衛してるなんてどういうわけよ。あんた一体何をしでかしたの？
みーちゃん聞くこと違う。一体何があったのリカちゃん。
境内の中にも見慣れない人がいました。あれも私服警官ですか？ただごとじゃないんですけど。
俺たちリカちゃんが何を悩んでるのか知らないが、みんなで励まそうって思ってきたんだ。でもどうやらそんな悠長な事態じゃねえようだな。
I couldn't stop laughing upon seeing everyone rushing to my house all asking the same questions. It made me feel as though being depressed all day had just been a waste of time.
リカ、笑ってる場合じゃありませんでしたよ。どういうことなのか説明してくださいまし。
どうもこうもないのです。今日は僕が殺される日なのです。
はぁ？
Everyone already knew that I've been telling people about how I was going to be killed. But they were surprised to hear it from my own mouth.
なあリカちゃん、俺は確かに昨日リカちゃんから聞いた。自分は誰かに殺されるみたいな話をな。でもそれはリカちゃんの冗談みたいなもんだと思ってた。だがな、もうごまかすのはなしだぜ。話してもらうぜ。
Keiichi spoke with a harsh tone, as though I made him upset. As my friend, he must think that it's unforgivable that I didn't talk to him about it. He wasn't the only one feeling that way, though. Every single one of them was looking at me with worried expressions on their faces.
リカ、私はみんなに助けてもらいましたの。だから私もみんなのために何かの助けをしたいんですのよ。
気持ちだけで嬉しいのです。
リカが自分で私に言いましたのよ。戦う勇気を持てと。あなたは自分でそう私に言っておきながら実践していないではございませんの。
Satoko pointed out something that I've already realized. I had no way to argue back.
リカちゃんは話せば巻き込まれるって言ったんだよね。リカちゃんが話さなくても私たちは巻き込まれる気でいるんだよ。
そうさ、俺たちは仲間で部活のメンバーなんだよ。リカちゃんの危機はメンバー全体の危機さ。かつてサトコが危機だった時も メンバー全体の危機として戦った。それと同じだよ。
命を狙われるとか物騒な話になれば、ますます園崎家の出番だと思いますけれど、それこそ物騒な話に及ぶなら警察より頼もしいですよ。ねえおね。そうだよ、こういうことこそ相談してほしいね。何をトラブったの？リカちゃんを殺すって脅迫するなんてとんでもない野郎だよ。
まあリカちゃんの口の重さを見る限り、心当たりがないのか薄いのかのどちらかだな。相手が分かってりゃ楽な話なんだからな。
みんなは鋭いので、僕が何も話さなくても勝手に話が進んでしまうのです。
リカ、はぐらかさないでほしいですわよ。ちゃんとお話しなさいませ。一体何があったんですの？これはどういうことなんですの？警察が来るなんてよっぽどのことですのよ。警察には話せて、どうして私たちには話してくれませんの？
私たちには話しにくい理由なの？
リカに話しにくいようなやましい理由なんてあるわけありませんでしたよ。
落ち着け聡子。リカちゃんはこう見えても御三家の当主なんだぞ。お社様の生まれ変わりなんて呼ばれて、年寄り連中に盲信されてるんだ。俺たちの想像のつかないところで何か厄介なことに巻き込まれていたということもあるかもしれない。そういうごたごたをこれからこの村で楽しく過ごしていこうっていう俺たちに話したくなかったとか、そういうのじゃないのか？
村とリカちゃまに関わるヤバい話ですか。となるとお社様を盲信する年寄り連中の絡みとしか思えません。ってことは時期的に考えてお社様のたたり関係か。あれだ、富武さんと高野さんが殺された件絡みじゃないかな。
どうして富武さんたちが殺された事件がリカちゃんに関連して、リカちゃんが命を狙われなくちゃならないの？
Question of the century.
話が突飛すぎるよ。
命が狙われてるって時点で十分話がぶっ飛んでる。俺たちが普段知る以上のしがらみがリカちゃんにあって、それを話せないってことなんだろうな。ビンゴだろ。あまり楽しい話じゃないから、むしろ仲間には話せないってんだろ。
信じられないですわ。本当なんですの、リカ。何か村とか富時さんたちの事件とかそういうのが関係していますの？
I remained silent, but with my mouth open. I hadn't answered any of their questions, but they continued to ask, and eventually hit the nail on the head. It was more surprising than anything. But then again, these are, after all, my beloved clubmates. I laughed once more. My issues and my secrets are so devastating to me, but they stopped sounding like such a big deal when everyone talked about them together. They knew exactly what was going on without me saying a word. In that moment, I realized just how powerless I am. I had to tip my hat to them. Everything seemed so foolish now. And so, I decided to just tell them everything.
話せと言うなら話しますです。でもどうせ信じられませんのです。
信じるさ。リカちゃんが真実を語る限り俺たちは疑わない。
Everyone's expressions turned grave as they vowed not to make light of anything I told. And so, I'm going to tell them everything. I want to see if they really will believe me or not.
なら話します。多分私は富武と高野を殺した犯人に狙われています。
ってことはそれって連続開始事件の真犯人ってこと？
それはわかりません。ですがその可能性もあります。
意味がわかりづらいですわね。 どうして富武さんや高野さんを殺した人がさらにリカも殺さないといけませんの？
Oishi thinks Takano is the culprit. Okonogi thinks that Irie is the culprit. Either way, it sounds like someone from Tokyo is trying to kill me. I can't tell if it's Takano or Irie, but I know that to them, I am like a trump card. In order to explain everything, I need to talk to them about the relationship between Hinamizawa, Tokyo, and the Irie clinic. I don't think they'll believe me. I'll go ahead and try. It's such a ridiculous story. But who will ever believe it, if not my friends?
話せばみんな巻き込まれますです。いいのですか？
いいに決まってるぜ。リカちゃんが巻き込まれた時点ですでに俺たちも巻き込まれているんだからな。
Everyone nodded at Keiichi's words.
では話しますです。
I'm going to see how everyone reacts. I'm going to ascertain what friendship is all about. With a nod of my own, I opened my mouth and began to explain.
ひなみざわにはある特別な病気があるのです。その病気の名前は仮なのか正式なのかわかりませんですが、ひなみざわ症候群と呼ばれていますです。
Oh man, I guess this also means that we're gonna have to tell Satoko that she has this. Everyone glanced back and forth at each other when I mentioned the term. They'd never heard of it before. The name Hinamizawa syndrome has actually been around since before the war. It's a general term for the severe homesickness and mental instability that people from Hinamizawa experience when outside of the village. Ah, I guess it makes sense. I was thinking that you mean it in like a medical term, that is. People in Hinamizawa have refused to leave the village since the era of Wanigafuchi. The villagers believe that they'd be cursed by Oishiro-sama if they left, and people did often come back because of that curse. In general, it used to be thought of as only severe homesickness. Yeah, we did actually talk about this before, about homesickness. I think in like chapter 6, right, with Rena. But during the war, soldiers from Hinamizawa became mentally deranged in faraway places. That does sometimes happen in war. What was unique about the soldiers from Hinamizawa was that the way that they killed their own comrades and committed suicide at the end. One doctor became curious about these cases and studied those soldiers. And that's when they found out that it was actually a disease only found in Hinamizawa. Oh my god. Imagine if we're actually bringing in like the war in this, like World War or something like that. Just like my theories. And they were studying it since then. According to this doctor, their strange behavior was not the result of their culture. It was a mental disease triggered by external circumstances. A mental disease with an external cause is different from a psychological illness. It's a result of some kind of physical disorder, and it causes people to become mentally unstable when something triggers it. There are 3 categories of externally caused mental diseases: traumatically induced, substance abuse induced, and chemical imbalance induced. Traumatically induced disorders are cases resulting from damage to the brain from trauma or infection that influences the mind. Well, I mean, there's a lot of tragedy and trauma to these poor kids, but I don't think that that would be the source of it, since, well, even those without trauma and all that still had some dormant Hinamizawa syndrome in them. This is the reason personalities can change as a result of head injuries. Substance abuse, as the name suggests, refers to cases where drugs, especially alcohol or stimulants, have influenced the mind. Because I'm saying, like, trauma is what makes the Hinamizawa syndrome worse. It's not necessarily where it starts. Like, Satoko more than likely could have had this from birth. Same for Rika, same for Rena, or from something that exists out there in the world, but before they had their own tragedies and such throughout the story. The last category is chemical imbalances. These are cases where some ailment in a patient's body causes abnormal secretions of bodily chemicals which then influence the brain's functions. This may sound odd, but it's been said that people tend to become depressed when they have a cold. We've all experienced the ways in which physical sickness can cause a buildup of negative emotions. However, with chemical imbalances, the cause is more direct. People's emotions aren't born from our hearts. Everyone should know logically that they are the result of chemicals secreted by the organs in our body as necessary. So when the organs operating in secretion of those emotional controllers malfunction, it causes them to secrete abnormal amounts. The thyroid gland, for example, secretes hormones that regulate emotions. When that gland is defective, the balance of those hormones becomes unstable. This can cause people to have not only a physical sickness, but also a mental sickness such as depression. So I guess, am I to assume that part of this Hinamizawa syndrome is the defectiveness of the thyroid gland? People don't get mentally ill just because of mental problems. Human beings are made out of meat. We get mentally ill when that meat is defective. The doctor studying Hinamizawa syndrome also came up with a theory. He suggested that there is a pathogen endemic to Hinamizawa that, if its host strayed too far from home, affects the chemicals in their brain and causes them to hallucinate. The villagers' belief in Oyashiro-sama is certainly related to this endemic disease. People in Onigafuchi village knew about this syndrome. They knew that they couldn't survive outside the village. They also didn't want anyone else to enter the village, because they would get infected too. They took this disease as a curse, not a sickness. The most significant symptoms of this disease are antisocial behavior and an extreme persecution complex. Yeah, so basically, the sickness was hidden as a curse. The eventual suicide caused by the effects in the lymph nodes are also another unique characteristic. The unusual behavior of terminal patients is what inspired the legend of the demons coming out of the swamp and attacking the villagers. Basically, sick villagers developed severe persecution complexes and wound up killing other villagers. After a long time, survivors of the disease started to comprehend its rules. They discovered that the disease is incurable once you contract it. That's why they started barring outsiders from entering the village. Also, once you become ill, you will begin developing a persecution complex. This can happen to anyone in the village. The doctrine of Oyashiro-sama says that the blood of humans and demons. The doctrine of Oyashiro-sama says that the blood of humans and demons was mixed together, and that Oyashiro-sama has control over the violent blood of the demons. People said that he would be cursed if he didn't follow Oyashiro-sama's rules. That could also be understood to mean that as long as you followed Oyashiro-sama's rules, you could cope with this endemic disease. This is what was meant by the scripture of Oyashiro-sama's legend that said that they appeared, unified the humans and demons, and made them live together in this village. Then there was the most important part. The rules to prevent symptoms from appearing. Those rules are the taboos, and people were strictly taught that Oyashiro-sama would curse them if they broke those rules. The horrible, bloody traditions of the village were probably performed in order to force people to respect these taboos. Oh my god, and that would explain why the Sonozaki specifically have done so many executions and such in the past. Or the Furudes or whatever families were functioning at the time. Like, they would do these in accordance with, like, trying to keep the syndrome in check. There are several ways to keep the disease under control. There are two main conditions for doing so. The first one is to prevent suspicion. When the villagers are suspicious of someone, it can trigger their persecution complex, which can lead to them developing terminal symptoms. That's why they made sure to have such a tightly knit community, so that people wouldn't suspect each other. Since the terror of Oyashiro-sama's curse is emphasized, many don't know this, but she's also a god of marriage and neighborly love. However, this condition is not as important as the other one. Indeed, Oyashiro-sama isn't even recognized as a god of friendship in Hinamizawa anymore, and is only worshipped as such in Okinomiya's Hirasaka district. Now, for the other condition, this one is much clearer, and was practiced more strictly. If villagers leave Hinamizawa, they will fall ill quickly, proportional to the distance from the village. Villagers nowadays will not get sick as rapidly, even if they leave town or even go out of the country for a long time. However, long ago, they would fall ill as soon as they left the village. Yeah, because this is actually something that I talked about before. Basically, back in the old days of the village of the traditional Japan, you don't really get to use a car or a plane to move around quickly so that you can come back home quickly. Like, once you leave the village for like an extended period of time, it would take like an extended period of time to even come back too. So, yeah. And because of that, you would develop homesickness, which would really make the chemical imbalances in your brain like even more imbalanced. Whereas before, you might get homesick, and at that point, if you do get homesick, well, at least you got your car or your plane to go back home like fast if you want to. It's very unfortunate that Keiichi got infected so soon after he moved to the village. It was also very fortunate that he got sick just because he left the village for a few days to go to his relative's funeral in that one world. Huh. Wait, what the fuck? Have I never really thought about Keiichi and the Hinamizawa syndrome? Cause yeah, he was not. He only recently became a part of Hinamizawa and contracted the disease. Unless we're gonna find out a twist that at some point he was born in the village and we never knew, but otherwise, he is fairly new, and yet he contracted the disease, like, really quickly. But again, because of, like, a lot of paranoia and a lot of anxiety that has made Keiichi the way he was, for example, like in Chapter 1. And I guess, in that sense, homesickness too, because he moved to a new place. He surely must have gotten like a little bit homesick when he arrived here, and that would like build up to it. I won't say it's the main cause of it, but like it certainly adds to the anxiety. That's why Hanyu felt so bad for him that time and kept on apologizing over and over. Although, no matter how much she apologized, he never heard her voice. This turned into a long discussion, but these rules etched around Oyashiro-sama's curse represent the ancient wisdom of how to cope with the Hinamizawa syndrome. Is there any way to use this mental disease for military purposes? The aforementioned doctor insisted there was, but the military didn't listen to him at all at the time. They were interested in developing a weapon that could make a dramatic change to the war efforts. They didn't have any money to spare for the research of this. I was. Wow. I even brought that up in like the first investigation video. If there was such a thing to weaponize like the Hinamizawa syndrome, could they use it in like battles against other countries? Well, there you have it. They were interested in developing a weapon that could make a dramatic change to the war efforts. either strengthening like their own soldiers somehow, or making the opposite forces like lose their damn minds during war, making it easy. In this way, research on Hinamizawa syndrome was abandoned. Then the war ended. Japan started its reconstruction under American leadership. However, some powerful people in the political world didn't want to accept the American way of thinking. Yeah, some of them were fired by the GHQ, but they still stayed on as advisors to the government, since Japan has a culture of respecting the elderly. Okay, so I guess the main difference is that during the war, they didn't really focus on using the Hinamizawa syndrome in their favor. Now, I wouldn't be surprised if some certain factions of Tokyo that Takano is part of is trying to go with that decision of weaponizing the Hinamizawa syndrome. I guess we shall see, but I wouldn't really be surprised. I mean, that's basically what was mentioned before, that there are some people out there that do wanna use, that do wanna make the Hinamizawa syndrome explode. That was actually said before, so. But I wonder if it can be weaponized in wars. That's the worrisome part. Eventually, a political organization was formed, the object of which was to restore Japan to the way it was before the war. In the beginning, this organization was a very small group. It was just a gathering of 2 or 3 individuals who shared the same ideals, blowing hot air at a restaurant. Those 2 or 3 hit it off with each other and grew to the size of a class reunion. That group became a rather sizable organization, eventually becoming a political one. Well, it would be more accurate to call them a secret society. This secret society eventually came to be called by the name of the place where it was based. Tokyo. Wait, what? So, eventually came to be called by the name of the place where it was based. Tokyo. So, the secret society is called Tokyo. There are many mysteries about Tokyo. One thing I knew for sure is that it was composed of old men from Japan's political stage, ones with strong power to indirectly influence the government and vast assets that meant they could work from the shadows. Wait, are you telling me that up to this point, whenever Tokyo was mentioned, they were referring to the name of the secret society and not Tokyo, the city? Because that's what I thought of. Like, you know, there wasn't like any name for like the organization. So, oh, hold on. Okay, I'm back. But yeah, I didn't even think that we didn't really have a name for the organization, so we said Tokyo because it was more generalized, because the people who are working on Hinamizawa syndrome are from Tokyo. Wow. How original. I guess it's just as original as Tokyo games. Hey. They were also connected to various corporations, and their goal was to return Japan to the way it was before the war. Of course, that was a pretty ridiculous goal. It was nothing more than an idea in their minds immediately after the war, back when they were still bowing their heads to the occupation forces of those white barbarians. Says Ben Castell, more than likely. Once Japan's post-war reconstruction began, Tokyo steadily became a shell of its former self. But it didn't totally become a shell. It cooled the fact. Japan regained its peace, and years passed. However, some people still continued to believe that Japan had been better before the war, and they were determined to return the country to those times. So this Tokyo plotted how to restore pre-war Japan from many angles. Is this what the evil faction is trying to do? Use Hinamizawa syndrome to restore Japan to its former glory? That's the big thing, I guess. They approached the problem economically, internationally, and militarily as well. Japan has no nuclear armaments due to the 3 non-nuclear principles. In other words, this country has to has to brown nose America as long as they hold nuclear weapons. The number one priority of Tokyo is to be independent from America. They want this country to be on equal footing, and to obtain a weapon of mass destruction that isn't nuclear in nature. And that's where Hinamizawa syndrome is inserted, I guess. That was the reason why they started thinking about utilizing Hinamizawa syndrome. However, they couldn't study this disease openly. In order to utilize it for military purposes, they had to hide the existence of the disease itself. So, they enlisted one young researcher, Kyosuke Irie. I need to make it clear that Irie isn't some far-right supporter of this secret society. He is just a young, capable doctor and an earnest researcher. He published an innovative thesis, but other academics thought he was too radical. However, that convinced Tokyo that he was the only researcher suitable to study Hinamizawa syndrome. As someone young and ambitious, Irie was thrilled to take on the project of studying this rare disease with a large budget, a large staff, and his own facility. Wait, so let me get this straight, because I was thinking that this organization is... Or no, like before, I was thinking that the organization was solely just trying to cure this Hinamizawa syndrome for the sake of the people. So we know the true goal of like Tokyo. I mean, which would be to restore Japan to pre-war like glory. But would that mean that that would be the main goal that Irie was also like a part of? Because that would be pretty bad on Irie. Like, he knew like the true intentions of Tokyo. Because I don't think so. Like, there are certainly factions for Tokyo, a good one and an evil one, and Irie was part of the good one. So Irie was studying Hinamizawa syndrome for a certain purpose, to more than likely cure like people and save lives, but also for a certain goal that the Tokyo had that was good, because otherwise he surely doesn't know that Tokyo would use Hinamizawa syndrome to create like a nuclear weapon to rival other countries and all that. I don't think that he was aware of that. So is it that Tokyo actually hid its true purpose from Irie? How would Rika know about this then? Where did Rika find this out? Unless it is from Irie. Irie is the one who would tell all this stuff. And Takano and Tomitake, I guess, in that sense. They would tell Rika all this stuff. So, well, I guess we shall see. Like, researching the disease would mean that he'd end up infected too. No one would want to take on such a dangerous research. He really was too young. With his other option being wearing down his youth working hard at the night shift for a local practice, he wanted to answer the expectations of the sponsor who carefully selected him. In the end, Irie was able to uncover that, as hypothesized. The Hinamizawa syndrome was a unique infectious disease, and he developed both a treatment and a vaccine. Irie was extremely talented. Damn. The Irie Institute was formed to study the disease. Irie was nominally the head of the organization, but Tokyo still sent out a supervisor, because when all was said and done, he was just a researcher. The supervisor was Mio Takano. Takano's job at the institute was to act as a go-between for Tokyo and Irie, manage the research progress, and preserve its secrecy. The latter was the most important part of their job. She had to do her best to prevent people from finding out that Irie was researching the disease, or even that the disease exists at all. Wait a minute, is that part of the reason why Takano would just be the one to spew a lot of like Oyashiro stuff like around, just spooking kids with like Oyashiro stories and like folklore stories and all that to spread more of the Oyashiro stuff so that people would not think of it as a disease. I guess so. The Mondogs were formed for that purpose. I mean, obviously, Takano has other, like, ulterior motives for why she's so obsessed with Oyashiro and she's into this disease, but still. The Mondogs were formed for that purpose. They were under Takano's command, and their job is to prevent the Institute's secrets from being discovered. The Mondogs are one special forces unit specializing in unconventional warfare. Bleh. The Mondogs are one special forces unit specializing in unconventional warfare and owned by Tokyo with its vast influence on the SDF. SDF! Tokyo had set their eyes on the likelihood that a small elite squad of covert operatives would be a trump card in the anti-nuke war era. So they vigorously investigated those options. This was a worldwide trend. Since the Cold War, everyone avoided sending troops directly to their enemies' doorsteps. Japan was also trying to be a part of that world. As a result, by 1983, even the police had been forming secret special forces units. Prefectural Police Squad 2, the one who intervened when Rena laid siege to her school, changed their name to Zero Company and grew into an anti-terrorism squad that handled hijackings around the Kansai airport area. The National Police Agency Squad 6 was formed as a counter-terrorism squad for Narita Airport 2, and they later changed their name to 7th Company as well. They theorized that in a world where nations possess nukes they can't use, small, elite special forces disrupting metropolitan areas would be the new way of waging war. So in 1977, they developed the SAT's predecessors, the Special Task Force SAP, to preserve as the National Police Agency's trump card in securing the peace. Likewise, the Japan Coast Guard established their Special Task Force, the SST, in anticipation of unconventional warfare on the coast. There are several known special forces units in Japan. When they hear a phrase like special forces, most people tend to think of a movie or a comic book. However, these units actually exist and are protecting Japan in secret. During the famous incident of suspicious boats off of the coast of Noto Peninsula, the news reported that the helicopter squad trained in gun battles was headed there, but was recalled because the suspicious boats sank. But that was because the Coast Guard's SST acted. However, the news never mentions the SST or any other special forces unit. All these units were established after Tokyo made a suggestion about it to the government. Researching military tactics under the name of peace and order worked perfectly for Tokyo. Yeah, that would be like their upfront, like, cover-up, like, motto. Researching military tactics under the name of peace and order. That's what they tell to everyone, even though their ulterior motive would be to do things in a very disgusting way. But since the mid-century anti-war movement made people resent those forces, these special units have been kept secret as of 1983. Furthermore, these units are not all formed under the jurisdiction of the police. There are still many other military units that are kept secret from the average citizen. The Mondogs are actually one of those special units. They specialize in kidnapping, espionage, and preserving secrecy. You might as well call them an assassination unit. They were around during the dam conflict as well. Tokyo worked to put an end to the dam project because of the impact it would have on Iria's research. The Mondogs were the ones who kidnapped the Minister of Construction's grandson. Although I wouldn't really be surprised if the dam project was part of Tokyo's secret plan to create it so that the Hinamizawa syndrome would explode in accordance to their plan, whatever that is. Most people believe that the Sonozaki family was at the center of the movement. But in reality, the mountain dogs were responsible for many of the things the Sonozakis were accused of. In that sense, the existence of the Sonozaki family was an advantage to the dogs. Their main job after the Den conflict ended has been to continue keeping the disease hidden from the public. With the spread of information networks in the modern age, the media jumped onto any unusual incident and quickly aired it to the whole nation. Tokyo doesn't want the disease to be known nationwide, since they're trying to utilize it for their own purposes. The main task of the mountain dogs is to kidnap people suffering from Hinamizawa syndrome. They pose as gardeners, but in actuality, they patrol the village to make sure nothing strange happens. What did I tell you? It can very well be possible that Satoshi has been kidnapped for research purposes. So Irie more than likely knows. They're the ones who demon away people who go missing. They're probably also involved in some of the mysterious deaths too. The last important person is Jiro Tomitake. I don't know his real name. He was an auditor who was sent from Tokyo 4 times a year. He came to check on the progress of the research, and outlined requests from Tokyo. He discussed the research budget with Irie too. He also got the observation report on Irie from Takano. That was his purpose. Irie started out by studying the autopsy results of dead villagers, and it discovered many answers from that. In 1979, the mountain dogs kidnapped the culprit behind the murder of the construction chief, who was a terminal patient of Hinamizawa syndrome. The nature of the disease was dramatically clarified. Their research made rapid progress after that, and they discovered a vaccine, medication, and other methods of treatment for the disease. At the same time, they continued to investigate how to utilize it for military purposes. One of the interesting findings of the research was that the pathogen can only be found when the patient is still alive. On top of that, they couldn't detect the presence of the pathogen at all, unless they used a certain inhumane method. They couldn't detect the presence of the pathogen at all, unless they used a certain inhumane method. The pathogen can only be found when the patient is still alive. Yeah, so no wonder, at the beginning, in chapter 1, after I did my investigation video, no wonder the police couldn't really find the disease, or rather, conclude well on the true nature of Hinamizawa syndrome. And that's why I was thinking that it was not necessarily like a drug-like disease that caused it, but something external, the Higurashis and such, sounds and all that. In other words, it's virtually impossible to detect the pathogen by normal means. It left almost no trace, and the unusual symptoms it produced seemed like voluntary behavior, so they concluded that the disease could be used to their advantage. However, Tokyo has been going through some changes. It's been almost 50 years since the war ended. The leaders and shadows behind Japan's government who ruled from the center of Tokyo began growing infirm and opening up seats, steadily passing their leadership to the new generation. The whole organization has started to shift. Of course, the purpose of Tokyo has stayed the same. It's still a secret society of ultra-nationalists who want Japan to be at the top of the world. However, their ambition to start a war with America and take over the world has diminished. But then enter Takano, who more than likely is on that path, maybe. Is Takano really interested in that kind of motive? I don't think so. But she more than likely is part of that faction where it most certainly wants Japan to be up there at the top of the world through dirty means. Tokyo has directed its priorities towards the economy, international affairs, and education. That doesn't mean that those ambitions are gone entirely, however. Several seniors still alive retain those ambitions. Tokyo continues to finance military research. But for the present day Tokyo, Irie's research is actually something of an embarrassment. The new Tokyo is no longer interested in this project. And they announced that they're going to cut their budget as soon as those seniors pass away. However, Irie objected to their plan. He strongly appealed for the continuation of his research. This is what Okonogi was talking about. Irie is in disagreement with Tokyo. Irie's research has been making great progress. They discovered various treatment and testing methods, and he's even starting to develop a treatment plan for the whole village. If they cut his funding, Irie's research would end up without any results. Tokyo had a discussion with Irie through Tomitake, and they decided to shut down his research partially, but not fully. However, they told him to immediately stop researching military applications of the disease, and destroy all the research data related to that. He had little interest in weaponizing the disease anyway, so Irie accepted those terms right away. Okay, I was about to say. Tokyo probably believed that it was better to let him find a cure for the disease than to terminate the project entirely. At this point, Irie considers himself one of the villagers. Perhaps exterminating the disease infecting the villagers without their knowledge is his way of atoning for his using the village to advance his research and reputation. Both Tokyo and Irie agreed to fully terminate his research as soon as he discovered a way to completely eradicate Hinamizawa syndrome. Irie made a plan for the next 3 years, and he promised them that he would find a resolution by 1986 at the latest. The meeting they had this June was to discuss the plan and budget for the next 3 years. Which brings us back to the beginning. One theory goes that Irie is in opposition with Tokyo, and as his trump card, he's planned to kill Rika Furude. The other theory is that Takano killed Tomitake, and as a trump card, she's going to kill Rika Furude. I suppose I need to explain why Rika Furude can be a trump card. Yes, please. The answer to that lies in the ancient traditions of Hinamizawa. Supposedly, members of Furude family have the blood of Oyashiro-sama in their veins. I explained earlier that Oyashiro-sama was made up as a method for having people cope with the disease. However, that's actually not true. For the demons, the pathogens, to survive, a certain being must be present. That being is the successor of the Furude family line. The truth behind the advent of Oyashiro-sama and the coexistence of humans and demons is that Oyashiro-sama was actually the queen of the village. According to Irie's research, Rika is adored by the whole village not only because she's a charming little girl, but because she is the queen carrier. Infected patients are unconsciously driven to protect their queen. Irie says that this is done with pheromones. Rika Furude's mother was also adored by everyone since she was little. However, as soon as she gave birth, people's attention quickly shifted to Rika. Irie calls it the succession of the throne. Oh my god. Like, now it's making me think. Cause, you know, obviously, Rika also has the Hinamizawa syndrome. I mean, she... Like, I don't know, You know, she lost her marbles in chapter 5 when she was fighting Shion because she was injected with a drug. But that is because she was injected with a drug that she was at the latest stage of Hinamizawa syndrome in L5, and she basically committed suicide herself. But otherwise, you don't really see Rika being so sick from Hinamizawa syndrome in the way that you saw Keiichi and Rena and all that. Heck, you know, like after all these goddamn years like of looping over and over, you would think that you would see Rika at her most like at her worst, Hinamizawa syndrome wise. But no, she is depressed. She has become hopeless and she has become such a drunk because of all this, but nothing that connects with Hinamizawa syndrome. Well, what if instead she's the carrier of Hinamizawa syndrome? She herself is not infected by it, but she is she could very well be the source of Hinamizawa syndrome. Like each member of the Furudes have been like the source of Hinamizawa syndrome. That's why they would have such interest in Rika. Not necessarily the way I was thinking before that, oh, Rika has the Hinamizawa syndrome and she very well could have achieved like a higher status of Hinamizawa syndrome that can be weaponized. Because I was saying, if she has this power of going through these loops, before I was thinking that she has the power to see into other timelines and such, but also now we know that she's going through these loops. If she's going through something like this because of Hinamizawa syndrome, Tokyo would want someone like Rika. They succeeded in achieving this, and they want to weaponize this so that they can gain the knowledge. I did theorize about that, but anyway, no, it's because Rika could very well be the carrier of this. That's why they're so interested in her. The queen is a precious existence to people in this village. There are theories that carriers of the disease are actually unable to survive when away from the queen, not from the village itself. Iria's research indicates that the queen can only survive in Hinamizawa, and infected patients can only stay alive when they are around her. But this is just a theory. Surprisingly, however, the doctors who first discovered the syndrome was also aware of the existence of the queen. Wait, hold on a second. Indicates that the queen can only survive in Hinamizawa and infected patients can only stay alive when they're around her. Okay, well, I guess there's that theory. And Takano put it into motion by killing Rika. The doctor was also knowledgeable about Hinamizawa's culture, and he was interested in how much value the village placed on the Furude family. He fears that the queen lying in the Furude bloodline might have the power to manipulate the whole village. The truth is still unknown, but perhaps the Furude family really has held such power since ancient times. Miraculous power that would make them perfect for serving in the priesthood. Although the only thing Rika can do is to be doted on by the villagers. If all this is true, then the question is, what would happen if the queen disappeared from the village? During the war, a doctor prophesied that if the queen were to die, then all the infected would show terminal symptoms, and the whole village would be wiped out. And I guess so. He advocated for strict preservation of the queen's host. Rika is important to Tokyo not only because Irie found many answers after running tests on her body. If Rika Furude dies, the 2,000 people in Hinamizawa will turn into demons. It would happen too fast for people to even realize that they are getting sick. Yeah, in one night too. They will each be overcome with a violent persecution complex and start killing each other out of fear. This is why the mountain dogs are protecting the queen, Rika Furude. Her death spells the end of the whole village. That's why Rika Furude is the trump card for those who know that she is the center of the whole epidemic. Holy Mother of God. How come I didn't think about that? That Rika herself could very well be the source of this. My God. This is the story of Hinamizawa. Our tale begins in June 1983. Tokyo's liaison, Tomitake, was found dead of the disease, even though he was vaccinated against it. On the same night, Takana was also kidnapped and murdered, though I don't know for sure if she's really dead or not. Rika Furude is also going to be murdered soon enough. While I have suspected Irie and Takano, this was my first time doubting Tokyo. I always thought that they were on my side. They had to be. My death would lead to nothing but disaster. At the same time, there might be people within Tokyo who could use my death as a trump card. I never considered that there were opposing factions within Tokyo. I guess I was naive enough to not realize that Tokyo had internal problems due to the generation gap. Unless that other faction, that evil faction of Tokyo, actually managed to extract Hinamizawa syndrome and have weaponized it into a nuclear weapon. And at that point they're like, well, we got what we wanted. We don't longer need the Rika for this. So what they're gonna do, they're gonna kill Rika and make an example out of her by killing her and then destroying the whole village and having the entirety of Japan know about the incident in Hinamizawa. And soon enough, Tokyo, they're gonna release to the entire world the knowledge that, hey, we have this powerful nuclear weapon that can trump many of you countries. Oh, you don't believe us? Well, look no further than the disaster that happened in Hinamizawa. Yep, that was us. We're the ones who did that. And you don't want that same thing to happen to you Americans. That could very well be it. That could be like one of the reasons for why the disaster has happened in the first place, to make an example for future wars. Anyway, I wouldn't be feeling this way if I didn't suspect that Takano might still be alive. I feel like I'm starting to see the greater picture. It's possible too that Takano is the victim, and Irie is the bad guy. The mountain dogs might be on my side, or they might be assassins who are trying to kill me. I was too scared to choose a wine that might be at risk of having something poison mixed in which case I could rest assured with a fresh, unopened bottle, even if it was a little bad. After telling everything to my friends, I finally realized that I could only trust them and the police. I'm really dumb. I thought I was thinking so hard, but I never actually understood anything. After all this time, I made things clear just by talking about them with my friends. I never thought it would make such a big difference. And that was quite a long exposition too, Rika.
僕の話はこれで終わりなのです。
As I thought, everyone was staring at me with their mouths open in shock. Even Oishi wouldn't believe a story like this. That's only normal. I'm sure I sound like a crazy person.
さとこ、僕たちが毎週診療所に研究のお手伝いに行っていますですよね。あれは入江の研究に協力しているだけではないのです。さとこの治療のためでもあったのです。
そうだ、そういえばさとこが病気みたいなことを言ってたよな。
私が理科の話なら私だけじゃなく、この村に住むみんながその怪しげな病気にかかってることになるんじゃありませんの？でもどうして私だけがお注射しなくちゃいけないんですの？監督の作っている新型の栄養剤の実験じゃないんでございますの？さとこは一度末期症状を迎えてしまっているのです。だから日に2回のお注射がないとすぐに症状がぶり返してしまうのです。入江はさとこを救おうと特に熱心に研究してくれていました。でも毎日2回の注射をしなくてもいい体にはどうしても戻す方法が見つけられなかった。でもいつか見つけると意気込んで今日も熱心に研究を続けてくれていますです。 冗談じゃないですわよ。私たち貧乏だから監督の怪しげな研究に協力してお金を恵んでもらってるんじゃありませんの？
She's not joking.
あんな注射一生やれなんて冗談っぽいでございましてよ。